Hey, everybody. Thank you. Welcome back. All that decent stuff. Let me start off by clarifying a couple things. First of all, and when I talk about clarifying a couple things, it's clarifying a couple things from the last episode, which was pretty entertaining to me, which, sort of really matters, I guess. But first, there's Miguel. I went into this long thing about how Miguel had been married and how it didn't seem like it was 17 years ago, but I remember when he got married. Well, there's a reason that I remember him getting married, and there's a reason why it didn't seem like it was 17 years ago. And that reason is because he wasn't actually married for 17 years. He's actually only been married since 2018. So, with that said, he's still been with his wife for 17 years, but it deserves for me to clarify that he's been with her for 17, but only been married to her for 3. So while I don't really know if that speaks to the segment about long-term marriages that end in divorce, it does speak to how things allegedly change once you do finally get married. So they were happy for 14 years while they were dating, at least happy enough to get married, but they couldn't endure for longer than 3 years after they got married. Either way, I apologize for giving you all misinformation because I do pride myself as having the journalism degree and trying to get things as right as possible, even though sometimes I fall short. Oh, well, sorry about that. But see how I spun that though? It's like, okay, it didn't play into my whole narrative about long term marriages, but I just spun that into a different thing and played it into how people like fall off as soon as they do get married. I have categories for all kinds of relationship failures. And if it didn't fall into one, it fell into the other. So that's the first point I wanted to bring up about the last episode. The second thing, it isn't really a clarification. I just wanted to kind of expound on something from the last episode because it was fascinating to me. Okay, I mentioned the article about the woman that got cellulitis and sepsis from wearing thongs and booty shorts. And as I mentioned on that episode, I just saw the article as I was about to record. So at that particular time, I didn't have all the details. And again, because this story fascinates me, I'll provide the remaining details now. And again, this is a PSA going back to the last episode to all the ladies out there. I'm looking out for you because, ladies, I love you and all of that good stuff, like I said on the last episode. So check it. This woman in the article, she meets this dude. She put on her sexy thong and her booty shorts to make a good impression. Now, the thong thing is a little interesting because I think this was a first date. So, unless she was planning on getting lucky, but I have heard that in I say I've heard, but actually I kind of feel this way myself. But I've heard it apply more so for women than men. But I've heard that your underwear that you wear can make you feel sexier even if no one can see it. So I get that. So maybe that's the vibe she was on. Now, the shorts that she wore on top of the thong, hey, you can see those. So she was definitely trying to make a good impression that way. But she would when I would do, the date lasted all day. And during the course of the date, she noticed that she had a wedgie. And from time to time, she would try to clear that wedgie out by like picking at her shorts and her thong, moving from side to side. Because spending the whole day in what you thought was just going to be a normal date, that means that's more mm, that wedgie does to you. So it just got more and more uncomfortable as the day went on. And like I said, even though she was like picking the wedgie out, it still wasn't enough. So the next day, she noticed she had this huge bump and a whole lot of chafing. Then, as the days went on, the pain got worse and worse. And then eventually she went into septic shock and had to be rushed to the ER. And now, while she was in ICU, they consider what is known as debridement surgery. Hadn't heard of that before? Yeah, neither have I. But let me break down what debridement surgery is. This is how bad her sepsis got. Eh, Debridement surgery involves cutting off part of your butt, the part that was infected. So I saw the picture. She had a flat ass anyway. So what? No, that's not nice. That's not nice. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But getting back to seriousness, all I can say to that is, ouch. Long story short, it was determined that the debridement surgery, the sepsis, the cellulitis, and all of that was caused by an anorectal abscess. Say that 3 times fast, and then try to figure out what it is. But everybody knows what an abscess is because you get them on your teeth. Imagine getting one on your butt. And there's a story I could tell about that, but I won't tell it because I don't want to. But it partially because it just is it's creeping me out. So I don't want to talk about it anymore. But to summarize, ladies, watch out for the thongs and the booty shorts. You're welcome. That's my PSA to you for the second episode in a row. And for the Miguel thing, hey, sorry. 17 years. Anyway, today I want to talk about positivity. Like many people, I believe that a positive mindset is important in everything you do in life, or at least as many people claim. And I believe that if you think positively, you'll live positively, and positive things will happen in your life. Conversely, I believe that a negative mindset will lead to negative things happening in your life. It's kind of like the whole speaking the truth to power, as people say nowadays, or there's power in the tongue. Like you speak life and death in the tongue and all that stuff. You know, all those sayings and talking about positivity and how your words and how your thoughts kind of can be manifested in your life and all of that stuff. And since this is a dating podcast, I figure why not talk about positivity and dating? Or I probably should say, considering we're talking about online dating, the lack of positivity in dating. And of course, these episodes start with a conversation I was having with a woman that I met online. Now, you know, this was a little while ago because last I heard, Facebook was having some kind of outage. And I'm sure to some of you all, even at this age, the age of the demographic of this podcast, I'm sure some of you all are freaking out about not being able to reach out to Facebook, or it might be fixed by now. I don't really know. I don't really check it like that. But I'm sure some people were freaking out about it. I am amazed that people at this age and stage of their lives still rely on Facebook to the point that they do. Kind of like their kids. We give all this grief to our kids, not my kids, if you listen to the last episode or the last 2 episodes. But we give all this grief to our kids, the generation's kids, for spending too much time on social media when we do the same thing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I was talking to a woman that I met online on Facebook dating, as a matter of fact, and she just signed up. And like I mentioned on the previous episode of the podcast, I've been doing this long enough that I can tell you when someone is new on the online dating scene. You can smell them. And in this case, it was pretty obvious. It didn't take a genius or someone who's been on dating websites way too long to realize that she was a newbie. And in her case, it was because her profile only had one picture, had no introductory copy. It had the barest minimum when it came to information. It definitely wasn't a profile that was screaming, reach out to me, come holler at me. It was a profile that was saying just the opposite, as a matter of fact. And the opposite is, well, you can reach out if you want to, or not. It either was saying that or I don't believe in any of this shit, but I ain't got nothing else to do. Mm, boy, I tell you what, just screams, run, go get her. But some of you might be saying, well, you were talking to her, and you would be right to say that. And as you guess, The reason that I was talking to her was because that one picture that she had on her profile with no copy or anything, it looked good enough that I could ignore everything that the profile lacked, which was pretty much everything because the profile didn't have anything. So yeah, I had to ignore everything that it lacked because it lacked everything. But I'm a man, and we as men, we kind of do that. We can ignore our better judgment because a woman looks good. It's our fatal flaw. And it should be a call to all women to do your best, to look the best that you can, because if you look a certain way, boy, you can get away with murder. It's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, as a matter of fact. And while she and I were talking, she was in a Mediterranean restaurant and she was getting some food. She had just gotten off of work or something and she was going home or whatever. I don't care where she was coming from or what she was doing. She was in the store. And while she and I were talking, while she was in the store, she just kept like interrupting the conversation to talk to some other dude. Now, even though I'm not technically her man, even though I'm not her man, I still felt a certain way. Two reasons. One, because this dude clearly sees that she's on the phone, but yet and still he's still talking to her. One, and then two, she's clearly on the phone, and yet she's interrupting our phone conversation to talk to this dude. So me being the person that I am, I couldn't let that pass. So I'm just like, so yo, you just gonna put me off like that? He doesn't know who you talking to. It's like that's disrespectful on both of y'all's part. And she was like, yeah, I'm sorry. But every time I come up in this place, dude always talks to me. I'm sure he was like disappointed because I was on the phone and stuff like that. He usually slides like some extra dessert or some extra appetizer, something in my bag when I come order. And I thought about it and I said to her, you know, no one's ever slid any extra dessert in my bag or any extra appetizer in my bag unless it was genuinely a mistake. But for this dude to do this for you every single time, or damn near every time you go into this place, boy, I tell you what, women, if y'all work on your bodies, you can get away with murder, boy. And you wouldn't even have to get away with murder technically because you find a guy that killed a dude for you or killed a woman for you. So you wouldn't even have to get away with murder because you find somebody who could do it for you. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the point is, I reached out to her because she looked good. And then inevitably, like all men do, when we get into these situations because we find somebody attractive, it eventually fades and we realize that, nah, I shouldn't have done this. Yeah, this chick didn't have anything on her profile for a reason. And that reason is because she has no personality or she's bitter or something else that you can point to that would speak that she's incompatible with you on so many different levels. But she looked good. Yeah. Basically, she wasn't approachable, which was obvious, but you still tried to approach her. Well, she could be approachable actually, but only if you like had a helicopter and knew magic tricks or somebody, or you could help her out with her aspiring rap career or something like that. Now, mind you, when I'm speaking about rap career, I do recognize that I am speaking to a certain demographic that is probably out of the rap game. Now, that is for the ladies that are listening. For the men listening, you might still be in the rap game because everybody knows of the 40-year-old rapper. So, and now we're crossing over into our 50s. Yeah, there's some 50-year-old rappers out there too. So, God bless you all. Go get yours. The point is, the point is, as I get a text, that her profile screamed that she was so negative on the whole dating thing, that you like have to move a mountain to convince her of something other than what she's already convinced herself about online dating, which usually is that it's a waste of time. But that speaks to the negative mindset, or as I prefer to put it, the lack of positivity. See, I call it the lack of positivity because even referring to it as negative is negative, The lack of positivity seems more positive when describing the negativity that I don't want to use the word for. Yeah, if you follow that. Anyway, so when I reached out to her again for the 85th time, because I was attracted to her in that one picture. And let me just say this also for the record, the picture was a full body shot because I have a hard and fast rule that I would encourage all of you all to stick to accept and stick to. Never, ever, whether you're a man or a woman, click the heart or click like or swipe right or whatever on a profile with only one picture. Been burned by it too many times, way too many times. And even though this was a full body shot, still, I should have known better. Even though we never met, we only had a couple conversations that went left, and I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, nah, if they don't have more pictures, nah, something's usually wrong. And I know a lot of people are like into like asking people to send more pictures. I've had women ask me to send more pictures and things like that. Seems weird. And I hear a lot of women say that guys ask for additional pictures outside of what's on the profile. And while part of it to me is that they're doing it um, because basically they don't trust what you put on your profile. Those pictures on your profile might be like 10 years old. But if you're sending them pictures in your phone, those could be 10 years old as well, which makes me wonder if they're just asking for creepy reasons. I don't know, but it is what it is. I don't like it, but I've sent extra pictures. I don't have anything to hide. I mean, shoot, I do a podcast twice a week. I'm on YouTube, even though nobody ever watches the YouTube. Still, it's there for anybody that wanted to like research me. But anyway, so when I reached out to her, the first thing I said to her was, "So tell me who forced you to get online?" Because it was obvious that she wasn't doing it on her own volition. And she responded by saying that a friend convinced her to do it. Okay. Then she said, and here, and this points out to the lack of positivity, not negativity. Well, call it what you want. She said, "I don't know why I did it. No one that I know has found anyone on these sites." Now, if that doesn't scream, again, lack of positivity, I don't know what does. So, of course, that led me to ask, if that's the case, why are you here? It's almost like she's just like polluting the water with her lack of positivity. And that was a question that I didn't really get a clear answer to. But what I gleaned from the rambling answer that she gave was that basically it was better than nothing. And while that obviously wasn't the most positive response, at least she did acknowledge that there was something worse, even though the worst, quote unquote, was doing nothing. I mean, out of all things, if you're in a situation and the only thing that you can point to about the positive of it is that it's better than doing nothing, oh boy, God help me in this dating world. Anyway, so I talked to her about the positive mindset and how if you approach things with negativity or lack of positivity, then it will usually yield negativity. All of that stuff that I said when I first started talking about talking about the topic. And I must admit that she took it pretty well. I've mentioned this to women in the past, and it led to a bad path. It's kind of like I found that when I've mentioned this to women in the past, they've kind of taken it in the same way that a woman would when you tell them to relax or calm down, or if they're looking a certain way and you ask them why they're not smiling. Like all of those things. It's like if you want a bad reaction, just mention all of those things. And in my case, when talking about women who are obviously negative about dating online, yeah, it has led to some not so good reactions, which kind of speaks to my point. But in this case, it wasn't a bad thing. And while she did acknowledge that I was right in what I was saying, but it was in that way that you know how people like say that you're right about something, but it's more of a way to shut you up. It's not really about changing their behavior or anything like that. It's just like, look, I don't want to hear what can be interpreted as a lecture that might feel like a lecture, or just feel like you're going in a direction that I don't really care to like dwell on. So I just say, yeah, you're right, with the hope that you just shut the hell up and move on. And that's kind of how I felt it was. But with that said, yeah. Anyway, when I asked her if she was going to like change her mindset after that, she pretty much replied with, well, she didn't pretty much, she actually said, quote unquote, we'll see. I guess that speaks to the whole thing about moving mountains and helicopters and magic tricks, because what I took from that was basically what will change her mindset is somebody like doing all of those things with mountains, helicopters, and magic tricks to change her mindset. Not that she'll work on changing the mindset on her own. It's just a matter of somebody having to come along and do the heavy lifting for her. Oh well. Needless to say, that interaction didn't last long. I tell you, I remember I dated a woman once that was the most positive person, male or female, that I'd ever met. To this day, I've never met someone that was so optimistic. She just felt like the universe would always make a way. No, that she didn't say God, she said the universe. But that's not really the point. The point is that as positive as she was about 99% in her life, you can imagine what the 1% was that she wasn't so positive on. And that was dating, not just online dating, but just dating in general. And not just dating in general, it was men basically. It was dating men. And considering that's all she dated, she was negative about that. So whether it was online, whether it was grocery store, it was just, if it was a man, pretty much she was pretty much um less than positive about that, while being optimistic to the extreme, to that sickening point about everything else in life. And to a large extent, this was offensive to me. This was offensive to me, being the person that she was actually dating, and while she was having all of this lack of positivity, aka negativity. As a matter of fact, one time I actually questioned her about it. I was like, yo, you're dating me. So the things that you talk about when you talk about men and men ain't this and men not that and all of that stuff, you're talking about, are you talking about me? It's like, I don't do any of those things that you complain about or that she was complaining about at the time. It's like, shouldn't that make you optimistic about men and dating? Haven't I shown you that I'm a decent dude? Haven't I shown you that there are decent dudes out here? And guess what she hit me with? You guessed it. She hit me with the, yeah, you're right. But again, it wasn't in that way that she was going to change, that she was going to change her mindset. So even in spite of her being in a happy, at least at the time, relationship, she still had such a negative mindset about dating and men in general. I tell you, like, our relationship was the exception to the rule. And no, it's like there's nothing special about me. It's just like I'm just a guy. So if I'm just a guy, there are other just the guys out there, just the guys. Yeah, that's, that's what I meant. There's other just the guys like that. In hindsight, thinking about it, I believe that our mindset is ultimately what broke us up. Yeah. I can think of another relationship that I can attribute that to as well. But ultimately, if you think negatively or if you lack positivity in your thoughts, how can you not project that onto your relationship? It's just sad that many women are cutting off their noses to spite their faces. And I hear the ladies out there saying, well, guys do it too. Guys are negative. And you're right. You're right to a certain extent. But I think even women would have to admit that when it comes to dating and the prospects of dating, whether it's those false narratives about 100 men to one woman or 100 women to one man, or, men are all looking for sex and everything. And I'm gonna have a cool guest on the show next week, but I will talk more about that next week. But I think even women would have to admit that their their mindset when it comes to dating in general is a lot more negative in than a man's mindset. And I know that women will say that that's because of the man, but yeah, women, when you say men do it too, yeah, you could say we do it too, but not as much. Yeah. And I'll also go a step further and say that unfortunately, women don't do a good enough job of checking that mindset when bad things happen. Instead, when bad things happen, it just reinforces the mindset. You know, somebody with a positive mindset will keep trying until it works out for them. I'm honestly proof of that. I've been at this dating thing for a long time, and yet and still, I still have hope. You don't hear me talking about F this and I'm not doing this anymore and all of this stuff. I'm still out here grinding. Yeah, I'm still out here like hoping. What's it? No, I don't think that's a word. I was thinking closer than close, but there's no hoper than hope. But the point is, I'm still out here grinding. I'm still out here like hoping. I don't walk into conversations with women that I meet talking about, yeah, this shit ain't gonna work, or walking around with one picture on my joint saying, yeah, somebody forced me to do it, but I don't have any hope. I'm out there swiping, I'm out there talking, I'm out there having conversation, and not because I'm looking for content, but because I am legit looking for love, looking for love and all. I'm sorry, now I'm starting to sing like Reggie. Shout out to Reggie. Yeah, that Reggie. But yeah, the point is someone with a positive mindset, they'll keep grinding, they'll keep trying, because when they do hit a speed bump, it's like, okay, that speed bump isn't reflective of everyone. I do not for a second think that all women are crazy. There are no women that are compatible with me. All women are moody, emotional, irrational creatures. Some of that, but yeah, for the most part, there's a woman out there for me. There are women out there for me. It's just a matter of finding them. So I still have hope, as opposed to someone with a negative mindset who will quit because in their mind they knew the worst was going to happen even before they started stepping out there to try to make something happen. And so when they do hit that first speed bump, that's reflective of what they already thought it was going to be. So they may as well quit. But again, many of those same negative dating people would be positive in every other area of their lives, just like my ex. So, in closing, whether it's finding a job, finding a house, finding a car, or finding a love, you'll get from it what you put into it. People will work so hard in every other aspect of their lives and work so little for something that's as important as love. And that's why I see so many people with one picture and nothing else on their profiles. Oh well, such is life. Or as the late great Pootie Tang would say, Sadate. Thanks for coming by, everybody. Now what is today? Today is Wednesday, but I don't even know why I mentioned dates, because you all will listen to this when you actually get around to it. And whenever you get around to it, trust me that I will appreciate it. So to Miguel, I'm sorry. To the anorectal abscess woman, I feel bad for you and I'm glad that you're better now. And for all of you negative dating people, y'all need to check that. Y'all need to check that. You don't want to be legitimately old and bitter, because boy, I tell you what, honestly, the chances of you finding love when you're like 90, ooh, good luck with that. God bless. Reggie, come say something to the people. Well, Reggie is Reggie, so he's still sitting off the side with nothing to say. I am Michael, and on behalf of myself and Reggie, I will say goodbye.